Hi, this is Aisha and welcome to another video of Read a Day Club. Today I want to discuss the works of Thomas Ligotti, his fiction, so that is Songs of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe, and also his non-fiction. I reread The Conspiracy Against the Human Race because I just wanted to sink my teeth into his horror a lot more thoroughly, which is why I decided to reread The Conspiracy Against the Human Race. He is exploring the underbelly of modernity, personal and societal. His interest is in the blight beneath, whether it occurs solely in the mind or is expressed through actions. For this reason, the films of David Lynch and the fiction of Thomas Ligotti sometimes speak to each other in interesting ways. Ligotti launches into this exploration, this kind of blue velvet approach, from the very first story collected in Songs of a Dead Dreamer, The Frolic. So the comparison made between Thomas Ligotti and David Lynch is on its own a very good reason for, to want to read this book. But also the foreword mentions how Ligotti's work sort of exists in this unique space between horror and the surreal and the visceral and the philosophical. And this is very interesting because especially after having read and reread The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, because you sort of understand what precedes Ligotti's horror. Thomas Ligotti's fiction really gets under your skin. It's gritty, it's ominous, it's psychological, it's existentially bizarre, and all this because what precedes it is a very pessimistic and nihilistic nerve of philosophy. It's not the kind of cosmic horror that is characteristic of Lovecraft, nor is it the Gothic or poetic horror of Edgar Allan Poe. What Ligotti does so well in his Songs of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe is that he uses human consciousness as a playground for horror. While his descriptions may contain surreal elements, what he writes about are very ordinary material things and human emotions. He manipulates fragments taken from reality itself, sort of looking beneath the surface of everyday things, which can really feel unsettling and graphic to read. So this is from his second short story, which is Alice's Last Adventure. Go throw off the shackles of material existence and explore the mysteries of an upside down, inside out, fairly sinister and always askew universe. Many of his short stories in Songs of a Dead Dreamer, you get a sense of reality dissolving into the surreal, which is the most natural thing to come out of existence itself. And in so many of his other short stories, there's also that common thread, which is that modernity sort of dehumanizes and corrupts human existence, so blurring the lines between modern human life and inanimate and artificial objects. Also in the trilogy, which is the Nyctalops trilogy, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Nyctalops trilogy, I wrote that Ligotti sort of really intensifies and heightens the sense of unreality, making his characters appear increasingly disoriented and unhinged from what is normal. So he sort of turns the mundane into something that is profoundly nightmarish and jarring. In the beast, suffering is self-confined. In man, it knocks holes into a fear of the world and a despair of life. Tying this to his non-fiction, Ligotti's written extensively about the nature of human consciousness, suggesting that self-awareness is a source of profound horror and that the very act of being conscious is inherently horrifying. It's a pessimistic perspective, no doubt, but you have to realize that it's pushed to an extreme so that it gives you that kind of self-awareness that other kind of books do not do. Ligotti explores the philosophy of pessimism, referencing many other philosophers and writers who wrote under this domain. So Schopenhauer, Zapffe, Cioran, David Benatar, Leopardi, to name a few. As a species with consciousness, we do have our inconveniences. Yet these are of negligible importance compared to what it would be like to feel in our depths that we are nothing but human puppets, things of mistaken identity who must live with the terrible knowledge that they are not making a go of it on their own and are not what they once thought they were. At this time, barely anyone can conceive of this happening, of hitting bottom and finding to our despair that we can never again resurrect our repressions and denials. Not until that day of lost illusions comes, if it ever comes, will we all be competent to conceive of such a thing. but a great many more generations will pass through life before that happens, if that happens. Now, on the subject of creating horror, Ligotti emphasizes the necessity of creating a very oppressive and unsettling atmosphere, and he achieves this through his fiction by creating characters that are completely consumed and imprisoned by just emotional states of dread, isolation, obsession, anxiety, and fear. One belief held by many Buddhists is that human beings are bits and pieces that add up to nothing, things of parts, hollow puppets. Non-beings that think they are something they are not. Other Buddhists believe that this is only half the story. Things both exist and do not exist. Things are not what they seem, nor are they other than they seem. Things are many and they are one. Everything is nothing, including nothing. But here is the real catch. If you want to become enlightened, you will never become enlightened. Because in Buddhism, wanting things is just the thing that keeps you from getting the thing you want. If you want to end your suffering, you will never end your suffering. This is the wanting paradox, or paradox of desire. And Buddhists are at the ready with both rational and non-rational propositions as to why this paradox is not a paradox. How to understand these propositions is past understanding. Because, per Buddhism, there is nothing to understand and no one to understand it. And as long as you think there is something to understand and someone to understand it, you are doomed. Trying for this understanding is the most trying thing of all. Yet trying not to try for it is just as trying. There is nothing more futile than to consciously look for something to save you. But consciousness makes this fact seem otherwise. Consciousness makes it seem as if 1. There is something to do, 2. There is somewhere to go, 3. There is something to be, 4. There is someone to know. This is what makes consciousness the parent of all horrors. The thing that makes us try to do something, go somewhere, be something and know someone, such as ourselves, so that we can escape our malignantly useless being and think that being alive is alright, rather than which should not be. Tie this with Ligotti's horror of existence and you quickly observe that in many of his horror like his fiction in Songs of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe, Ligotti intensifies the existential dread of just being stuck in that relentless cycle of desire and disappointment. Consciousness forces us to act. Consciousness forces us to identify and relate to people and things. It forces us to seek knowledge in a way so that we derive meaning from things that inherently have none. And this can be quite a bleak, this can be quite bleak to read in general. But to me, it's really fascinating because it just reminds me that that feeling of dread and dissatisfaction is a very universal feeling. Knowing where Ligotti's philosophies of horror stem from is also very important because they help you sort of detach from the words on the page and not relate every aspect of it to your own reality and experiences. Personally, there are a few things that I do not completely agree with, but I think that's very natural. And even then, I would still continue to read such books that sort of carry forward that legacy of pessimistic philosophy because I genuinely enjoy them. Alright, so I want to end this video with a film recommendation because I recently watched this film and I can't stop thinking about it. It aligns so well with Ligotti's ideas of horror and what it can do. And the film is Ee.Ma.Yau. It's a Malayalam Indian film. It mirrors so much of Ligotti's ideas. It's dark, it's cynical, it's chaotic. When you reflect on Ligotti's ideas on just the inherent function of horror and being acutely aware of one's own mortality and trying to mask the horror of it in external anchors such as religion, tradition, social norms, etc. The film, under that light, makes perfect sense because it brings so much of that to the surface. It's all you see and feel, and because it's set in such a claustrophobic and trapped environment, the film really gets under your skin and it stays there. Both the visuals and the audio experience of it. Alright, so that's all for this video. I hope you liked my recommendations and you watched the movie Ee.Ma.Yau. It's streaming, it's available on YouTube for free with English subtitles. Thank you so much for watching this video, and this is Aisha from Read a Day Club, and I'll see you guys next time.